Good morning, good morning. It is Wednesday, the 27th of March 2024. You're watching Morning Brew on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. So welcome. Today we're going to talk a bit more about the EU and the fallout from Brexit. It was quite interesting on Monday night. We had a massive farming protest against, farmers protest, against something, according to the likes of Nigel Farage. This was because of net zero. They were protesting against these draconian measures to make countries, to make farmers basically not let their cows fart, essentially. It's a bit more nuanced than that, Nigel, but that's not the real reason that these farmers were protesting. The farmers were protesting quite simply because of Brexit. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who, rightly or wrongly, blame farmers for the Brexit vote. But the reality is, whereas the population of, say, Sunderland voted for Brexit, about 60%, the farming community, the farmers out there who were surveyed, only voted for it by 58%. Okay, that's more than 50%. And driving around in the run-up to the Brexit referendum, there were a lot of signs in farms saying vote leave. Yes, there were. I'm not going to dispute that. However, it's not like farmers were completely disproportionate to the rest of the country in the way that they voted. Don't forget, a lot of people in Sunderland worked in a car plant. You're thinking, well, why would you vote for something that is going to disrupt trade and make it more difficult to sell the cars that you make? And with the farmers, it was like, why would you vote for something that is going to take away your common agricultural policy subsidies, but also your protections? Now, Farage and his horrible, gruesome little friends like Aaron Banks and Richard Tyson, Johnson and Rees-Mogg, they would say things like, oh, the EU's a protectionist racket. And it's not a racket, but it is protectionist. And it protects us. Well, it did protect us. And in particular, it protected our farmers. What did it protect them against? Well, we have to have high standards, being European countries. That comes as natural. We want high standards for our food. It's the stuff that we put in our bodies. We want to make sure that it's not terrible or going to kill us or going to kill lots of people, because obviously if there's a problem in the food chain, that can be quite serious. And the way that the EU protected its farmers against cheap imports from other countries, maybe developing nations, etc., was to have these rules in place that you could not import food into the EU unless it met a similar standard or higher standard than what farmers made in the EU. This gave the EU farmers a competitive advantage that they otherwise wouldn't have. In fact, without that and without the farm subsidies, there would be very little incentive to be a farmer. For example, cereal crops don't make much money. You're talking pennies at the end of the day, for after all the equipment is paid for, after all the work is done, everything. I don't think that a lot of cereal farmers in this country actually turn a profit at all. And what subsidises them, the clue is in the term, are farm subsidies. And the farm subsidies they used to get with the EU have not been replicated by this Brexit government. And also, this Brexit government has created these new trade deals. For example, the one with Australia, which is the best example of this because it's absolutely bonkers. We can't sell a single strip of beef jerky to Australia under the terms of our deal with Australia, but they can sell us 20,000 tonnes of beef a year. And that beef might be hormone injected. It might have antibiotics inside it, which isn't great because it's building up our resistance to antibiotics as a population. And without antibiotics, a lot more people are going to die. People will die because we need people to not be immune, if you like, vaccinated. We need them not to be vaccinated against antibiotics because antibiotics help people. Maybe we get the anti-vaxxers on board for this one. Oh my God. So, protest on Monday, organised by Liz Webster of Save British Farming, who I might actually try and get onto Labour Social actually at some point to talk about it. But she is very much a anti-Brexiter, much like myself, a pro-EUer. She's a rejoiner, and she organised the protest because she isn't happy with these trade deals, these terrible trade deals that we've renegotiated. And let's delve into this for a little moment, because there's a few things with these trade deals that just blow my mind. First of all is this idea that in order to give a figure on how much a trade deal's worth, what the tabloid, Murdoch, Barclay, Vladimir Press will do is they'll say, oh, it's okay. The amount of money this trade deal is worth, it might not even be a trade deal. It might just be a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, like we had with, what was it, Alabama or somewhere in America. Essentially, they go, well, let's have a look at the GDP of that state or that country. There's multiple countries. We'll add the GDP of all those countries together and say that the trade deal is worth this much, which is so insultingly stupid. I don't know where to begin. It's a bit like thinking that if a millionaire comes into your sweet shop and buys a 10p mix of sweets, that deal is worth billions because that person is worth billions. But they've only just spent 10p. That's the money you've made. And you haven't even made that because you've got to pay the rent for the shop. You've got to buy the sweets in the first place. You've got to buy the little paper bag to put it in. I mean, seriously, it's not worth that much to do that interaction with that person just because they're rich. Doesn't. But here's the thing, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's true. There are 56 countries in the Commonwealth now. Over 50 of them put together, add all their GDP together, do that same trick that the tabloids love to do. Put all of the GDPs together, just add them all up on a spreadsheet. 50 of them, of the 56. And their GDP comes to less than that of the UK's. Okay. Cool and normal. Doesn't look like there's much money out there, and this is something that I've been saying this since before the Brexit vote, guys. There's not much money out there. There isn't, and what people in developing nations want, and I had someone on Twitter even this morning saying it's okay, we're going to get trade deals with developing countries, and I'm like, look, I hate the fact there's poverty in the world. I hate the fact there's poverty in this country. Okay. It upsets me, pisses me off. It's wrong. There shouldn't be any poverty anywhere. We have enough resources to go round to feed and clothe and house and make happy all 8 billion people on this planet. So long as what makes them happy isn't having £1 million each. Which for most people it isn't, by the way. But the reality is that these countries that are developing, the people who live there, they want cheap food. They want cheap building materials. They want cheap electronics. They want cheap clothes. 4 things that we in the UK cannot possibly make. We can't. Like, even if you had some theoretical factory, which was all powered by AI and the machinery and everything was self-replicating and everything ran by itself and didn't even need a night watch person to make sure that things don't go wrong. It just all runs smoothly. The electricity bill alone would mean that it would cost more to make the clothes and get them shipped over to countries in Asia, countries in Africa, countries in South America. It will cost more than if they just get the clothes made in Bangladesh or the electronics made in China. It's the way the world works. We just can't do it in this country because this country is an expensive country to live in. Therefore, it's an expensive country to make things in. And then the defense to that is, but services. We're going to have services. Services is going to be great. And it's like, what are you going to sell a goat herder in Chad? What are you going to sell them? Hey, a share portfolio, an investment package. They've got nothing. People living on less than $1 a day. Or now it's $2 a day, inflation. $2 a day? Are they going to save up and buy a Nissan Qashqai? Are they hell? Are they going to invest in some blue chip startup company investments, Bitcoin? No, of course they're not. Like, come on, let's be sensible here. We have drawn up, we've pulled up the drawbridge to our rich neighbours who live nearby. We've put in non-tariff barriers for the last few years, whereas our food going out to the EU has had to be checked cytosanitary. What's the word? I don't know. Cytosanitary checks. Is that it? No. Someone's going to tell me in the chat. Basically, it's got to be checked to make sure it's all right to go into the EU, something that we never had to do when we were in the EU ourselves. It was as simple as sending stuff from Liverpool to Manchester. If you want to send it from London to Berlin, it was that simple. It was just you paid for the shipping, essentially. Now, there's barriers in the way, but the stuff coming in, we weren't checking. We're going to check it this year. Apparently, they keep saying they're going to. They keep knocking back the date that they're going to do that. But that affects British farmers as well. So they've lost the subsidies. We've signed these crap trade deals with countries all over the world. And even the long-standing deals that we had with countries in the EU are undercutting British farmers who will be looking to export their produce. And the Tories just don't have a clue. Because they don't understand how business works. They don't understand how farming works. They don't understand how economies work. They don't understand anything. They just sound like they're competent, but they're not. And they sound competent because they've got posh accents. So people just fall, for these very upper class way of talking. And it makes people sound like they know what they're talking about when they fucking well don't. And this is one of the things that, when we look at Britain and the problems that Britain faces, the biggest one is deference. That is the weird bowing down and worshipping at the altar of anyone who sounds a bit posh. And we do. And we absolutely do. And that's why Jacob Rees-Mogg is seen as an idiot's idea of a clever person. But yeah, so the protest was about Brexit. They stated it was about Brexit. These new trade deals that are awful for British farmers. The Australian trade deal being the perfect example. So don't let the right-wing media spin this in any other way than, the farmers, just like the fisher folk, absolutely effed by Brexit. Yeah, who saw that coming? Oh, I remember. Everyone who went on those marches against Brexit. There were banners saying this would happen. So if we knew, the powers that be must have known, and yet they did it anyway. Yeah. Thank you very much for the super chats. Come in here. We got Johnny Copperhead. I had a weird dream about that bloke Gullis being made deputy chair of the Conservative Party. Crazy, yeah? I mean, even the Tories wouldn't be so stupid. Wait, what? Yeah, Jonathan Gullis, the howler monkey of Parliament, has been made the deputy chair of the Conservative Party, filling the arsehole filling the hole. Sorry, that Leanderthal left. So someone wrote the Tory party's so full of shit it needs two arseholes. Captain Bart Robert, thank you very much for the super chat. Good grief, talk about sunk cost fallacy in red wall MPs. That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me because, they're going to make the best of a bad situation. They're not. They're not. The only way that we can solve this problem that we've got in the UK at the moment, so look at the state of our economy. It has taken a nosedive. Look at taking our international trade. It's taken a nosedive. Look at international investment in the United Kingdom, inward investment from other countries. It's gone off a cliff. Why would anyone invest in this country at the moment? It just, of course, people go, oh, but you said it was going to be even worse. Yeah, you were talking about a no-deal Brexit, which would mean we wouldn't even have a deal with the EU that we could put anything in there. We wouldn't have a free trade deal. So we wouldn't just have non-tariff barriers. We'd have non-tariff barriers and tariff barriers on top of that. And some of those tariffs are insane. The WTO tariff on refrigerated beef. Is it frozen beef, refrigerated beef? It's like 800% markup. It's mind-blowing how much it is to go to WTO rules. WTO rules is there as an absolute baseline measure that nobody uses because everyone has trade deals. Let's go WTO, said people who don't know what the WTO is, what it stands for, never been there, never talked to anyone who works at the WTO. We went to the WTO, we had conversations with people who work there, and they said to us, Britain is effed, and it has no idea how effed it is. I mean, that was coming from people, can't say who, Chatham House rules and everything, but people involved in a certain financial institution based in Geneva, Switzerland. But shocking, absolutely shocking. And yet, there's a rump of the population, maybe probably about 20% now, who still think Brexit is a wonderful idea. And they're so glad to have their crappy blue passport and all the freedoms that have been taken from them. And their children. And their grandchildren. Thanks for that. Johnny Seagullis. Puninator, sorry. I think then we more into it after all. What better promotion for other countries to remain than a humbled UK with their tail between their legs? Well, yeah, I read on Twitter this morning there was someone arguing that after after the UK, the EU is not going to allow any other countries to leave. I think if Hungary wanted to leave, they'll probably just let it. But also, that was the thing, like, oh, it's undemocratic, why not? Because he won't let us leave. Come on. I mean, the problem with leaving the EU wasn't the EU. The EU were like, fine, leave, we don't care. Whereas the UK was like all fighting amongst itself. Fighting, parliamentary battles over the flavour of Brexit that would be most acceptable to the rich and powerful in this nation, the disaster capitalists who have run this place for the last 14 years. But I am not feeling particularly great about stuff at the moment. But there is something that is keeping me going, and it's this. This year, both the UK and the US have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to destroy the Tory party and over the pond, the Republican Party. They could do it. No holds barred, go for it. Stop this bloody quibbling about, I don't like the colour of the rescue boat. No, none of that, okay? Go for it. Absolutely crush them. Crush them to dust so they never rise again. In the UK, this will be done by making sure that everyone votes tactically. So everyone votes for the person who is most likely to get rid of the Tory in their constituency. It might be Labour. It's probably going to be Labour. But it could also be the Lib Dems. It could be the Greens. It could be the SNP. So let's not spend our time slagging each other off who are all on this side. Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They are on their knees. It is time to kick them so hard they never rise again. Over in the US, the Republicans, last night, there was a election in America, in Alabama, which flipped a seat by like 50 points. So it was like the most insane flipping of a seat in Alabama in history, because it had gone from deepest red. This place voted overwhelmingly for Trump in 2020 to voting overwhelmingly for a Democrat. Why? Because of reproductive rights, which the Republicans have taken away. So if Trump wants to brag about the fact that he's done that, he's taken away the right of abortion to millions of American women. And also, they're looking at this thing called the Cornstalk Law, which they're hoping to use as a Trojan horse to ban abortion in the whole of America. All 50 states of America would have abortion effectively banned if Trump gets in. Now, well over 60% of the American population want abortion, and a good portion of those people are going to be Republicans. Get on it. Absolutely step on that wound in the Republican Party. They're on their knees. Take them out. Don't mess around. No pussyfooting. No going, we can't. No, because it's not the Tory party as we knew it. It's not the Republican Party as we knew it. These are vile mutations of what were already pretty bad parties, in terms of social cohesion and love and respect and tending to a decent economy. But they've taken it one stage further. They have made it so dysfunctional. Nothing is getting through Parliament. Nothing is getting through the House of Representatives, the Senate, Congress in America. Nothing's getting through because they're just blocking everything. They are saboteurs, destroying democracy from within and making sure that nothing can get passed. And they're doing it in America and they're doing it in the UK. They need to be stopped. And the only way we've got to do that is by voting later this year, probably October here and November in the States, voting to make sure that these entities need to either drag themselves kicking and screaming away from the extreme, back to the centre, or destroyed entirely, and we have a new centre-right party, or even better, a new centre-left party. So we drag the Overton window kicking and screaming over to the left where it belongs. Where it stood for a long time until the 1980s. Yes. This isn't the Brexit they all voted for, says Johnny Copperhead in a lovely super chat. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. They promised blue passports and they're actually black. Yeah, and they're crap inside. Every page is the same. US states are banning 1984. Well, you know, I've got some sympathy with that. It was a terrible year, you know. Ghostbusters, did Gremlins come out in 84? Indiana Jones and the Temple of... Oh, you mean the book? Oh, they're banning 1984. Wow, they're banning an allegory of what would happen if the Soviet Union took over the world. Okay. Doesn't surprise me. They just do what they're told to by their master Putin, because, you know, they're all Putinists. They're all Pooters. Duke Vengeance says, oh, by the way, I had a letter through my door from Tory Mayor Andy Street. It's very green instead of blue. He's literally blaming Labour for all of our problems here and not him. Literally, Mayor of West Midlands. Yeah. I mean, this is the guy who's like saying, oh, I'm working with, what's his name? Andy, the mayor of London, the mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham. I'm working with Andy Burnham to salvage something from HS2. At the same time, he's sending out messages going, Labour are evil. Don't trust them. It's like, well, you're literally talking to Andy Burnham about what you want to do about HS2. So you trust him. Oh yeah, but all the rest are bad. And oh my God, did you see the video that the Tories made? Like this sort of 1950s doomsday video thing about London, like scaring people away from London. London thrives off its tourism. It's one of the safest countries in the world. And this like nightmarish horror movie video thing where it was like public information film about the Soviet threat or something. And it talked of Sadiq Khan seizing power by winning a democratic election. Yeah, Tories, eh? Who'll have them? Anyway, right, so I'm just going to jump over for a moment to the papers. We've got Kim Jong-un's war on Alan Tishmart's imperious trousers in the Star. This is a story about jeans are seen as imperialist in North Korea, so they fuzz them out on the TV. Fair enough. The bridge that was destroyed in Baltimore there is on the Express. It's on the front cover of most of the newspapers here. The ship Mayday alert did save lives as they knew that they had lost power. And yeah, just we were talking about this in Geoscope last night. I've travelled a lot on cargo ships. This is the 300-meter long cargo ship. This isn't even one of the biggest. It's got 10,000 containers on it, or TEU, stands for 20-foot equivalent unit, or something like that. And yeah, it looks like the brakes have gone. Essentially, you can't just stop a ship if the engine is a catastrophic engine failure. You'll just keep going straight forward, and if the rudder is electric and the electrics have gone down, you're not going to be able to steer the ship. Quite simply, and this is a huge danger. These ships are so big. But don't forget, I mean, as far as ways of traveling the world or getting stuff around the world, obviously a cargo ship like this is a lot safer than 10,000 lorries on the road. So yeah, yeah, chemical attacker given asylum despite failing Christianity test by the government. They're trying to blame this now. This is the chemical attacker in London who killed himself, and then they said, oh, it's because he was supposed to be kicked out, but then he said that he had to stay because he was a Christian and he failed the Christian test. It's like, who let him stay? It was the Home Office. Don't forget that. It was the Home Office. It was a mistake by the Home Office, not by the church, not by lefty lawyers, not by confused clerics. No, it was the Home Office's decision, and they decided to allow this guy to stay in the country. And now they're trying to blame everyone else, as the Tories always do, because that's what Tories do. Thank you very much to JJ there for the £2 super chat. That's very kind of you. I'll give you a little super chat animation. Yeah, thank you. Clapham chemical attacker, asylum fiasco. Judge doubted his account. He failed questions on Christianity and was a convicted sex offender, but Afghan was still allowed to stay as a convert. Yeah, by the Home Office. They make the rules. They make the rules. Judges just work on the rules that they've been given. They're just, yeah. Just 1 in 4 say NHS is working. That's down from 70% in 2010, the highest it had ever been under Labour, under investment and restructuring by Labour, which went down a treat. But no, apparently the Tories didn't want that because they wanted to privatise everything. Because someone's going to be making a profit. You've got a problem. Well, go to the hospital and we'll make sure that some shareholder over in the other side of the world, maybe in Singapore, maybe in, I don't know, Hong Kong or somewhere, is making some money out of that infection that you've got, that you're getting cleared up, or you're getting medicine for, you're getting procedures for. Someone's got to make money. Somebody's got to make money. We don't care who it is or where they are or what they do with their lives, as long as someone's making money out of your misery. Yeah, great. Tory mentality there. Mayday call before cargo ship rammed into bridge, saved lives. Again, they knew it was going to happen. Apparently, they shut the bridge, and it was the construction workers on the bridge who were already on the bridge who were caught out, which is, horrific. And also, it's worth mentioning, like I mentioned this last night, this bridge was built in the 70s, and it was a time when, and we still do this now, and it drives me up the wall. It's like, architects and engineers have this love affair with the absolute bare minimum amount of materials they need to build things. Like the Victorians over-engineered stuff to like crazy levels, so that's why the sewers in London are only now needing an upgrade after 170 years of Joseph Bazalgette designing the original sewers of central London, because he designed them with such redundancy. It's like they'd be like 10 times bigger than they needed to be. Why? Because he knew that London would get bigger. And if this ship had hit the Brooklyn Bridge, I don't know if I honestly don't know if it would have collapsed. If it might have done, but it would have taken longer. This just fell like a house of cards, because they went, okay, well, what's the absolute minimum amount of building materials we can get to get away with clean straight lines. And I think there should be a balance between the two, because you've got to think, well, what if this happens? What if a plane crashes into this 1970s built building? What will happen? What if this ship crashes into what if a big ship crashes into this bridge? What would happen? And it's worth. I mean, yeah. I just think that we should build things properly in the first place, and then we wouldn't have to replace them every few years. Anyway, moving on. Traitors, the Brits fighting for Putin. These some Putinist scumbags fighting to kill Ukrainians for some reason, because they're I don't know, not nice people. And this is a weird story here. This is about Prince Harry, and the rapper Puff Daddy, or P Diddy, or Sean Puff Daddy Coombs, who has been found guilty. Well, sorry, he's under investigation for a lot of very problematic behaviour, criminal behaviour, and he used the fact that he knew Harry as to lend legitimacy to various criminal acts that he may or may not have committed. The CBI stopped staff discussing sexual misconduct claims, and stop staff discussing sexual misconduct and bullying claims. That's on the front cover of the Guardian there, and also the discharges of sewage into rivers at new high. We've had one of the wettest starts of the year on record, and because the Tories voted, over 280, I think, Tory MPs voted to allow sewage to be poured into our rivers for the next 15 years for the benefit of usually foreign nationals who own shares in our water companies. They're continuing to pump raw sewage into our waterways. Every single watercourse in Britain now is full of shit. In fact, it's so bad that usually at the end of the annual boat race between Oxford and Cambridge, they jump in the Thames together and all splash about. Not only can they not jump into the Thames this year, they're also going to, after getting out the boat, they're going to have to be showered down to get rid of any traces of E. coli. Tory Britain. I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. Bring on this election. And I am also getting increasingly frustrated with people who say they're on the left, but yet are doing everything in their power to keep the Tories in power. Because this is not a done deal. I know a few people, a few commentators are like, oh, Labour are going to win, whatever. No. But I worry. I worry. I know I'm a worrier, bit of a backseat driver, but the polling companies that you get your polls from, like YouGov, founded by Nadine Zahawi. I mean, was it? Or was it Kwasi Kwarteng? There's one of those Tories. And then you've got like the other polling companies. Like, it would be in their interest to make people think that it was a done deal and therefore not bother voting. Because like, oh, well, we can vote for someone else. This is what Owen Jones said last week. He said, you can vote for someone else. It's fine because Labour are going to win anyway. Yet we don't know that. We don't know that for sure. We've got voter suppression. So people need ID now. But if you're young, you're less likely to have that ID than you are if you're old. Yeah. Which the Tories now. BBC set to make wealthy pay more for the licence fee. Director General Tom Davey announces the corporation's biggest ever public consultation to consider the introduction of means-tested licence fee as the cost increases for everyone to £170 a year. Yeah, means test it, fine. Then it's not a regressive tax. Let's see how we go with that. And then disaster after container ship collision, and this is about the ship collapse, the bridge collapsing after being hit by a ship. State pension age may rise to 68 sooner to pay for triple lock pledge. So we younger people, slightly younger people under the age of 50 are going to have to wait longer to retire. I don't think a lot of us are ever going to retire. We're going to die working, I think, by the looks of things. If the Tories have their way, especially if they get in the next election, which I'm really, really hoping that they won't. So anyway, I normally would be back at 12 o'clock today for Prime Minister's Questions because it is Wednesday, but Parliament has risen because it's just an extension of boarding school for the Easter break. So we're not doing that. But we should be back at 6 o'clock tonight for The Intersection with Patsy Stevenson. Hopefully we'll be recording that later today. So we'd like you to join us for that. And then at 9:30 tomorrow morning, we've got Morning Brew again, but with Phil. It's like this, but with Phil. And so, yeah, if you would join us for that, I'll be in the chat. I'll be joining you lot in the chat. Yeah, woo. But just now, if you would like to go over to the Discord server, the Labour Social Discord server, I'll be over there for the next hour or so listening to James O'Brien. If you want to have a chat there, please join us. If you are a YouTube member or a patron, you should have access to it. If you don't, please let me know and I'll sort that out for you. And Puddinator, reasons to not be complacent. Pollsters are Tory owned. Voter ID. Reform could strike deal. No set date could lead to unforeseen circumstances. Left vote split. Yeah. All of those things. I mean, the big one is refuck, because we're looking at the Tories and going, they're only on 19%. Yeah, but refuck is on 15%. Put that together, that is 34%, which is, I mean, it's not quite what Labour have got, but it's a lot closer. And that gap will close. And don't forget as well, on top of those things that Puddinator's just put in, the amount of people that you need to vote for a Labour MP is more than the number of people that you need to vote for a Tory MP. Because the election system is absolutely bonkers. Anyway, okay, so I smash the like button on the way out. Yes, don't let me forget that. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks for the chat and the super chats. Like I say, I'll be back later. Oh, no, I won't be back. I think Rachel's doing this one. The Intersection will be on later at 6 o'clock tonight, I hope, all being well. And if you want to join us tomorrow at 9:30, you're very welcome to do so. But until then, I'm off to Discord. So I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.